This is part 4 of my EDC Organizer Throwdown video series featuring the Maxpedition EDC Organizer versus the Vanquest EDC Maximizer Organizer. In part 1 we did an overview of both organizers, in part 2 we did a drag test, in part 3 we did a water test, and what I'd like to do today is do a stuff test to see how well they do organize various gear that you were to insert inside of here. As you can see by the design of the Maxpedition, it has a smaller stitching spacings on the left side here, so it's better suited for smaller pens, as you can see. And then on the Maximizer, you have wider stitching spacing, so you could fit larger tools in there. So also, you could probably tell that the Maximizer is a little bit larger than the Maxpedition Organizer. You could actually fit the Maxpedition inside of the Vanquest. So what I like to do is this. I'm going to stuff up the Vanquest EDC Maximizer Organizer as much as I can with various types of tools. I have tools over here. I have various size pens and markers, and I'm going to stuff this up as much as I can, and then what I'm going to try to do is transfer the items that I do stuff in here into the Maxpedition EDC Organizer and see how much I could actually stuff in there, and what I can't stuff I'll put off to the side and show you later. And then what I'm going to do is take the items that are able to be stuffed inside of the Maxpedition EDC Pocket Organizer and move it back into the Vanquest to see if the Maximizer spacing, you can see it has the varied stitching here in comparison to the Maxpedition, which has a very kind of a parallel stitching and everything lines up real nice and neat. If the Maximizer truly does organize the gear a little bit better than what the Maxpedition does. And then we're going to do just a general thickness test to see how well it does that. So let's get started with this video featuring the Maxpedition EDC Pocket Organizer versus the Vanquest EDC Maximizer Organizer, and let's do a stuff test. So I'm just filling out the Maximizer right now with various crescent wrenches. Alright, this definitely isn't as neat as I would normally like for my EDC organizers, but it's definitely full, so I'm going to try to see if I can zip it up and transfer it over. Alright, I have the Vanquest Maximizer Organizer stuffed with various handheld tools. There's no kind of office supplies like pens or anything like that. It's very heavy, as you can see, and it's fairly thick. So I'm going to see what all I could fit now into the Maxpedition EDC Pocket Organizer. Just as a heads up, all the tools that I have in here, each one is stored in an individual webbing slot. So I didn't try to stuff multiple into a single one, even though I probably could have. So with pens and everything, you could probably stick multiple pens in that webbing slot. For this particular portion of the video, I just have a single tool in a single webbing slot. Alright, I was able to get most of the items into the Maxpedition EDC Pocket Organizer, except for a couple of the longer ones that don't quite fit in there. So the Maximizer is definitely taller than this one, so you could fit some longer tools in there. But everything else seemed to fit, so I'm not sure if we'll be able to close it though. Let me try. See if I can get those in there. There we go. Alright, we got them in. So here's what the thickness is looking like, as you see there, with the Maxpedition. You probably wouldn't want to have this for EDC with tools that are going up that high in it because it's hard to close. So what I noticed with the Maxpedition is that it looks really good when you don't, just on this first row of items that you see here, they fit real nice and snug in there, but as you put items behind it in the secondary row, that's when you start seeing, like for example, let me just take these two out here. So as you can see here, these sit nice and flat. So when you do put them in there, put the one in the row behind, the webbing there, is you'll get these kind of like kind of bulges that kind of go like that. And that seems to be one pro with the Maximizer, is that you don't really see that as much. So when you're looking at it, you kind of see those raised areas right here and right here. There. So now let's move them back over to the Vanquest. Again, here's the thickness. Alright, so start putting some items behind this on the second row, basically, in the Maximizer. As you can see with the bulge there, how it raises, you have this first row here that's kind of notched into there, and then you have the secondary item that's in the secondary row, kind of fits in between. So that's kind of where they get the name Maximizer, I suppose. Alright, so everything that was in the Maxpedition Organizer is now in the Vanquest Organizer. This is how it looks. Again, it does not include the longer items that were previously stored in the Maximizer Organizer because they're a little bit too long for the Maxpedition. As you can see with the Maximizer, it seems to have everything in sequential order with regard to the tools, so you can see everything a little bit easier. Let's see how it closes. The Maxpedition was a little tough to close up once we got up to the top. Since this is a taller organizer, it probably won't be as much of an issue. Yeah, so not much of an issue. And then here's what the thickness looks like. Now let's repeat that same test, but this time using various pens and markers and things like that. So we'll start off first with the Vanquest, move it over to the Maxpedition, and then move it back to the Vanquest. For this one, I think I'm going to actually try to stuff as many of the pens as as reasonable within each individual slot. So for this one, instead of just doing a single pen, I'll do maybe 2 pens on that one. I'm sure I could probably fit 3 in there if I really wanted to, but I'm trying to get it for more for what a user might want to do. Actually, I think I'll take the red ones out from here and just go all blue on both sides. So red on this side, blue on the other. No, it's not a gang thing. Alright, so I have a few dry erase markers in the back row, or the second row there on the left side. This one's completely stuffed. Looks like I still have some space in the sleeves over here, so let me try to find something to fit in there. I also have some spares of the other pens that weren't able to fit within the normal expected webbing slots. Unfortunately, even the Maximizer is a little bit too small for my Wonder Woman collection. I'm going to have to find something else. Alright, so these CD-ROMs should do the trick just to simulate thickness, and we'll be able to measure it a little easier too. So let's just throw those in there, see how many we could fit. Alright, I'd say that's just about stuffed. Alright, on this side I was able to fit all the blue pens, but 2 of the black markers were unable to fit in there. Alright, so I was able to get all of the pens except for 2 of the red ones in there. All of the dry erase markers were able to fit in there. As you can see, they kind of bunch up into groupings of 3 here, just due to the design of the stitching. So a group of 3, as you see there. Same thing kind of goes here. So you kind of have these 2 big bunches here, right there, and there on the blue side. So probably have a little bit of space. So let's see how many of these CD-ROMs will actually fit in there before we could not close it anymore. Alright, so I have the Maxpedition EDC Pocket Organizer stuffed as far as I could stuff it with the supplies that I have. Let's take a quick little measurement. Here it is in metric, so we got maybe around 4 centimeters. You see there. In inches, what do we have? A little less than 2, maybe 1.5, 2 inches. And so what we weren't able to fit inside of the Maxpedition was 1 of the markers, 2 of the pens. From this side we have 5 CD-ROMs, and then we weren't able to fit any of these ones here. So we have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 CD-ROMs that was in this left panel here. So now let's take everything that's out of the Maxpedition and we'll move it back over to the Maximizer, and then we'll remeasure using our little ruler here. Moving the markers over. And lastly, the CD-ROMs. So we were able to get 1, 2, 3, 4 in there. Everything's now taken out of the Maxpedition EDC Pocket Organizer and moved into the Vanquest EDC Maximizer Organizer. So everything is inserted here. On the right side, you kind of have these bunchings of 4, as you see there. And then everything's spaced nice and neat here on the left side, just because I was able to fit more red pens originally on the first iteration on the Vanquest. So again, I didn't end up using these smaller ones as they're probably designed. I imagine most of the time you'd probably want to put things like USB thumb drives in there. Just the ways of inserting them there. But I kind of like using them as extra security for keeping pens and things, nice and snug in there. But they could be used for additional storage, such as flash drives. So now let's close it up and check out the thickness. All right, everything fits nice and neat in there. Here's a general look of the thickness of it. Take out our little handy dandy ruler here. Go in inches, let's see. I don't know, I'd say less than 1.5 inches there. Does that look about right? In metric, what do we have? Less than 4. maybe 3.5 centimeters in metric. This thickest side, maybe it might be a little bit more closer to 4 there on the thickest side. But it definitely closes a lot easier. And again, this is all the stuff that we couldn't fit in before with the Maxpedition. So a lot of CD-ROM drives, a couple pens, and the marker. That's going to do it for this portion of the EDC Organizer Throwdown. In summary, I feel that the Maxpedition EDC Organizer is better suited for smaller pens, especially due to this front row stitching that you have here. It's also a smaller organizer, so it may fit a little bit better in your cargo pants, for example. And since it is smaller, I don't expect it to be able to store more stuff than the Vanquest, but I do feel that the Vanquest is able to store contents a little bit more efficiently due to the staggered stitching that you see here. So everything that you're able to fit into the Maxpedition, you're able to fit into the Vanquest a lot more efficiently, plus you're able to store a lot more stuff in there as well. So please feel free to leave any kind of comments below in the comment section. Let me know if you agree with these test results. Again, I don't usually like having my organizer stuffed to the brim, so for some people maybe you don't really care about that and you want to have more pens, so maybe the Maxpedition's more of your approach. If you do like having a lot of items in your organizers, then the Vanquest is probably the way to go for that. So for just overall stuff efficiency, I would say that the Vanquest won this particular challenge of the Throwdown because it's able to store more items more efficiently. So again, leave any comments in the comment section below, and let's wrap up this video series featuring the EDC Organizer Throwdown between the Maxpedition EDC Pocket Organizer versus the Vanquest EDC Maximizer Organizer. See you guys next time.